Howdy, howdy, Casey here from VanTripping.com. Thank you for chiming in. After my last couple of videos on my plumbing system in my expedition camper that I'm building out here, some of you asked, why am I not using PEX, P-E-X tubing for my plumbing? And I'll tell you why. Many good reasons. That's right. Some of you asked, so I thought I'd make sure I answered it. So thanks so much for asking, and certainly do ask any other questions you have. And thank you for watching my video series on building out my DIY expedition camper. Okay, so there are many reasons why I am not installing PEX tubing in my DIY expedition camper. Let's get into those reasons. Number one, cost. First of all, PEX tubing costs more than standard water tubing. And so a braided line such as this not only can handle higher pressure, a broader temperature range than PEX, but it's also lower cost on a per foot basis, or at least it can be. And of course that is rated for drinking water. So that's reason number one. Number two is, and this is the main reason why, I do not need a special crimping tool and special crimping ends, as well as specialized fittings. And so what happens when I'm in a remote country where there is no PEX used, no PEX tools, which is the vast majority of the world? How am I going to find a PEX tool or PEX tubing or PEX parts or components, the fittings and all stuff to go together to make a repair or some addition that I might need on my camper when something breaks somewhere down the road? I'm not. I'm going to have to sit there and wait for something to get shipped in. And those crimping tools are expensive. They're $75 to $100 a piece. You got the little crimped ends and everything else to go in there. So I would have to then carry all those around or be able to go ahead and buy some batch of those in order to make a repair or addition. So then I'm also buying them by the batch, which makes it a little bit harder to go ahead and do a kind of a quick little repair or just a one-off little change. Also, getting that crimping tool into tight little spaces inside my camper here, as you've seen in some of my videos, where my plumbing is in a tight, confined space because I'm trying to maximize space for storage, for appliances, for livable space. So, of course, that's important. And for gear, right, to enjoy the journey, right, to get out and enjoy, to bike in those places and hike and ski and things like that. And so now, like, getting a crimping tool in those tight little spaces is difficult and challenging. So I have to provide more space for my plumbing. So that's the second reason why. The third reason why is PEX tubing is not translucent. And so unlike this kind of tubing, which is translucent, which I use for both my supply and also my drain water, I can see if it's got some kind of a buildup in there, an algae buildup or something. I can see if there's a restriction in the tubing or something, or I can see if there's even flow by injecting some bubbles into there, or a little bit of dye if I needed to. So I can test to see if there's flow, whereas in PEX tubing, I can't see that. The third reason, or am I on number 4 now, is also that in PEX, I really would want to buy at least 2 colors, red and blue, right? Blue for the cold water and red for the hot water. But then, of course, if I only have a little bit of red water tubing and a lot more of the cold water tubing because of that transfer between tanks and things like that, I would then be having to buy this big spool of a blue and red tubing, but only use a small portion of it. And same goes true also for, like, if I was going to buy the third color, white, and that would be just for, say, my non-pressurized lines or my non-hot or cold lines, just my transfer lines, right? So I'd have 3 different colors of spools I have to buy, which means I'd have 3 different leftovers on each one of those spools of waste. Whereas in this, I can buy it in one size. I can use across the board for all 3 of those uses, right? Hot, cold, and just plain transfer, non-pressurized or pressurized. And so I have 1 tubing, so I have less waste. If I need a little bit more, I can buy a little bit more. I'm not stuck with buying a little bit more of one color and then having a lot more of that color left over. So all in all, when you add it up, cost-wise, PEX just costs more, right? It's going to cost more, and I'm going to have more waste, right? And of course, I'm not going to be able to get translucent color, translucent tubing, so I can see if there's a problem inside of it and resolve that. So those are some of the reasons why. When I talk about some of the other reasons why, too, I talk about fittings. And of course I can get a standard barb fitting, barb to barb to barb, or in any direction barb, T's or 90s or whatever it may be, right? And these are very standard fittings. So I can buy these standard fittings and I can use them across the board. And of course I can do that for all of my different sizes of tubing, and so that's really convenient. I can buy this in a really strong kind of a fitting that can handle some burstable freezing pressure, and I can also buy it with an MPT fitting on the end, and so I can easily go ahead and get this into an MPT fitting without spending a lot of extra money on a PEX, going from their barb fitting to an MPT fitting or BSP or some other form of fitting. I can buy standards fittings that'll pretty much work for my barb size across the board. I don't need all these kind of different adapters and things to get to a certain fitting that I might have on a plumbing device or something of that nature. So that's also another reason why. And also another reason why is I can buy whatever kind of plastic or brass or some stainless or whatever fitting I want, and I can buy that fitting because they're readily available, and I can even use those fittings across the board. I could use it in a fuel system. I could use them in, one for pressure, one for drain, one for drinking water. I could buy the same fittings and use across the board for all of them. I can even buy fittings like this, which are embedded with a silver ion. So I can use these for something like a condensate drain line on the fridge, which is what this is going to be for. And you can see it's also a smaller diameter than these other fittings here, right? But now it's embedded with the silver ion, so of course it's not going to build up algae or some other bacterial growth for that little bit of condensate that's going to be in a line that may not drain out all the way. I can use this in there. So and these are pretty low cost and readily to come by, whereas I can't get these in PEX. And I can also get a lot of different sizes in these barb fittings. I could go from 1/4 inch quite easily, and even probably smaller, all the way up to, probably 8 inches in diameter. I know I can buy these up to at least 2 to 3 or 4 inches in diameter, depending on the fitting. So I could upsize things if I need to for something such as a drain, like a shower drain. A lot of sinks are commonly a 1.5 or 2.5 inch drain coming out of them. I can easily adapt that very inexpensively right to the barb fittings and the barb hose that I have. And I can carry a little bit of this extra barb hose around, and all I need is a hose clamp on each end in order to secure this to these barb fittings like this right here. And so hose clamps, I can carry a few of those around. Those are very useful. I can use them for many different purposes, and so that's very useful. I could even secure with a zip tie if that's what I needed to do. Whereas with PEX, I probably would be comfortable securing with a zip tie. I probably could secure with a hose clamp and it'd probably be fine. However, they, of course, wouldn't guarantee it, and I wouldn't feel totally confident without their special crimping tool. But now I don't have to, in travel, carry around a special crimping tool, the special crimping ends. I can just carry around some hose clamps, a little bit of extra tubing, maybe a few extra fittings if I feel like those are fittings that are vulnerable to breaking or something of nature, and that's it. So those are some of the reasons why I am not using PEX tubing, and there are many other reasons why as well, but that was a conscious decision, and I feel it's better in an expedition camper to not use PEX for those reasons I listed. There may be very good reasons to use PEX, but I feel like it's more vulnerable if you ever need a repair or an addition down the road, and it likely will add more cost and more waste. If I were building these at scale, many of these vehicles at a time, then yes, probably using PEX would probably make more sense, probably. And I say probably, wouldn't be as good for the owner on a repair basis, but it might be better on the actual construction. It might be a little quicker to do than installing a hose clamp to do the crimping tool as you do at PEX. It might give a little more of a secure feeling to the buyer, and it might also be prettier, of course, with the blue and the red and the white tubing, whereas, versus just one color such as this. So there's some benefits perhaps if I were doing this and selling these products, but I'm not. I'm building this for myself. I'm building it to be durable, reliable, low cost, lightweight, but also very robust and durable and likely to last a long time, and also, most importantly, repairable should anything ever happen anywhere in the world. Be able to be repairable and be able to do that quickly and easily. So hence, this is why I am not using PEX tubing in my DIY expedition camper. Thank you so much for watching. I shared my thoughts on why I'm not using PEX tubing because many of you did ask, and I wanted to make sure I answered that question thoroughly for all of you. And also wanted to share a little more about what I have coming up next. I'm super excited to share that with you on installing the air conditioning system, modifying some of the camper box mounts, and certainly installing a lot more of the cabinet framing to come. Thanks again for watching, sharing, and subscribing, and certainly do ask any questions you have, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon.